All right, everybody. Hey, guess what? Today we got right here a 2002 Ford Escape V6 with a bad alternator. And I'm going to tell you this. This video is going to be a little goofy because I missed the first part of it. It wasn't recording when I was doing it. So you're going to see it in reverse. So, hey, let's get started with this thing. All right, so with the alternator facing down, spool at the bottom, that bracket is out, should come out right through here, and there you go, dropping the light and everything. So we'll go get another one, and it'll go right back in that same way it came out, the top on there, facing down, kind of rotating as it goes back in. We'll go get a new one. We'll show you how to put it back in. Yeah, something like that. What a pain. All right, so after we went ahead and you can see that, well, you can't see it, but the new one I've got propped up in here so I don't have to mess with it. So I don't want to turn it. We're starting to put the bracket back in here. This bracket has to come out. We're going to show you this a little bit in reverse. So here's the bracket that has to go back up in here. There's 3 bolts that hold that back in here. And those look like these right here. These 3 10mm bolts. All right, got that bracket in there. We have the alternator, have the power wire and the plug plugged into it. We can actually try and get this moved back around and into position. Be about right there. So since we have these brackets and everything out of the way right now, it's probably the best way to do that as you're taking it apart is to take these things out of the way. It gives you a little more room to work. These things are difficult to do, but definitely give you the room to get it done. So what we'll do next, so we'll go ahead and get the bolts put in here and get it mounted back into place, and I'll swing you around here so you can see it a little better. All right, I wanted to show you real quick before I started putting the bolts back in here, and I about forgot. There's a little shield here that is nearly impossible to put in when that alternator is back in here. So I'm going to try and get it back in here maybe. There we go. And the reason for it being a pain is that the clips and the little plastic bolts here that hold it in, the top one right here is in the way of the alternator. There's no room in between there. So it's easier just to get plugged into place right now. So don't forget that as you're putting things back together. Then after we get everything tied back in with the 3 bolts that hold in the alternator, we got that plastic piece back here on the little shield on the back side here. And we got our intermediate shaft put back in here with these 2 nuts that hold the carrier bearing in place, or the shield here in place. I got a bracket to put on right here. This one here. This holds this plug up here out of the way, and I believe we have a little zip tie that goes back in here, and this goes on here also. So I'll get those tightened up. All right, then, of course, just like we took the belt off right here, the tensioner pulley here, put a 3/8 ratchet on it, pull it over, and then you can release it from the alternator that we changed out and get it all put back on there. Take that back out and we're good to go with the belt. And now we can put on the outer CV shaft, boots and all that good stuff, and get everything tied together out here on this end. So that'll be what comes up next. All right, so when taking these out, they're not quite as scary as everybody thinks they are, at least what some people say anyway. The hardest thing is there's a little ring that's on here, and the idea is you got to get it popped over that ring. So what I did is I just took a dead blow hammer and a piece of wood and popped it up here right on the back side of here, and just worked my way around and kept hitting it a few times, and eventually it popped itself loose. So going back on, same thing. You're going to pop it from the outside here. Definitely don't use your ball peen hammer, your woodworking hammer. You're going to mess up the threads and everything else. Use a dead blow. At the very minimum, you got to put the nut. I'll show you. You can at least put the nut back on here and thread it on here a little bit. This way you'll at least protect the threads, and I'll show you. Get her lined up. And there we go. It's back in there. It really doesn't take that much, and be smart. Don't mess these up, because then you're buying a whole new axle, half axle here and everything. And yeah, I've done it before. So anyway, take the nut back off. We'll put it back into the outer bearing for the wheel, and we'll get some of this stuff tied back together.
Get these tightened back up.
Still got a shield to put on the inside of here, but that's easy enough to do here towards the end. Put the caliper back on, wheel back on, and you might notice that that little wheel studs there is broke, so we're going to try and get that fixed too. And of course, we still need to put on our axle nut, and that is a big socket that takes that on and off. There she is right there. That was a big 32 millimeter that fits on there. All right, so as you can see, we got our shield put back in here. A bunch of 10 millimeter screws, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And looks like like I said, right now, we've gotten everything put back together, and we're gonna get this caliper cut off of here. I just had it held up by zip ties just so it keeps it up out of the way. It's not knocking anything out. I'm waiting on to get that last stud, but I'm going to go ahead and put everything back together, and I may give it back to the owner, and he may have to get that done. He's supposed to give it back to me, but he hasn't got it to me yet. But we'll get it done. So we get the caliper put back on next. Release the caliper. Of course it's not going to go on real easy when I'm on video. I'll be right back. Of course, it was the brake pad on the inside, and I didn't want to look like a fool on video, so I had to shut it off, and then it falls together for me just fine. So we'll get our big bolts put in the back side here. Bottom one, top one, and it looks like it's about in place. Yeah, it's threading in there. We'll get it tightened down. Put our wheel back on. Don't need that on here anymore. These nuts on the back of here are 18 millimeter. I'd say this is probably about the 4th alternator I've done on the escapes, and the only reason I learned how to do them was because I wasn't going to pay the $800 for the shop to change it out. So I thought, well, let me buy some tools and figure it out. And going through back then it was the old Haynes manual to figure out how to do it. And a buddy of mine had an escape, done one on his. He did it again later on another one. And we got this one here, and I know there was another one. I can't remember whose it was now, but done a few. So it's definitely something that happens out there. Like all cars, they all break down. But it's always nice to learn something so you can feel a little valued yourself and save some money. That's what I like. So I'm gonna put the wheel on this thing. We're gonna get it down on the ground, and I'll see you at the end. All right, so that does it for this episode. This was kind of a fun one, but we got it all fixed up. It is not a simple task, I will repeat. This is kind of a pain, but it will definitely save you some money to learn how to do it yourself, and get something a little satisfactory out of it too. So hey, like always, go down, like, share, subscribe to it. Hey, we'll see you guys next time. Later.